Welcome to The Grand Balance, a bi-weekly podcast hosted by two working grandmas navigating the beautiful chaos of work and family. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Hey, I was out of town last week, so I really appreciate you pulling the content together for today, and I look forward to seeing what you came up with.
Well, today we're going to do some myth busting and see how they stack up to reality.
Ooh,
Myth
fun.
busting, old wives' tales. The funny thing is, when I was thinking about this and researching it, I kind of feel like these things go more towards the older generation, like our parents, my mom. A lot of these things we've heard our whole lives, and I don't know that a lot of them I ever believed. So
our kids probably don't believe them then at all?
it probably is things people have heard their whole lives, but
Okay.
I just thought it was interesting. One of the interesting ones I thought was feed a cold, starve a fever. Have you heard that?
I have.
I guess medical research shows that all illnesses need additional nutrition and hydration. So you feed both.
Oh, see, I honestly believed in that myth. Okay. Learned something new today. Because I really, when something happens like that, I always try to figure out, I'm like, what is it again? You know?
I know. I never could remember either.
Okay.
Another one that I thought of my whole life because my son was forever cracking his knuckles is the old myth is cracking your knuckles will cause arthritis when you get older. And that's not true. Did you know that?
I believe that one too. Okay.
I just never was sure because it doesn't seem like it's healthy for your hands to do that.
Well, and it's funny because I got in a car accident when I was like 20 or something. And I went to the chiropractor, never had to crack my back before, went to the chiropractor, and then all of a sudden, now I have to crack my back all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it kind of caused it. So I would have believed that, well, if you crack your knuckles a lot, you're going to have some sort of damage or, continuous pain or whatever, where you're going to have to keep doing it. So
It's so weird. Some people love to get their back cracked, and I am one of those people that hate to have my back cracked. I like the chiropractor, okay? I just hate the actual cracking.
I like when my son picks me up because I'm a little
my son does that too.
Yeah, and he picks you up and cracks your back.
Yeah, and I don't like
so
that.
Good. Oh, that feels so good.
I know.
To me.
Everyone else likes it, and my son is very good at it.
Interesting.
He's
okay.
forever doing it, but
cracking knuckles is okay, doesn't cause anything.
Apparently.
Okay.
This one I never believed because my mom used to always tell me it wasn't true, but my grandma would always tell us, don't go outside with wet hair because you'll get sick. But my mom would always instantly tell us, no, viruses make you sick. You won't get sick with wet hair. So I never believed it, but I feel like a lot of people believe that.
I probably agree that a lot of people believe that. I know my daughter has very long hair and she never blow dries it. And so she's always going out with wet hair. And I guess she was okay. So
Same. Me too.
Yeah.
Did you ever, I've never heard this one, but I came across it and I laughed that you swallow spiders in your sleep. Have you ever heard that?
That's a myth or a...
Yes. Some people believe that.
Why wouldn't you believe it? What if you sleep with your mouth open and a little spider crawls in? I bet people do.
It doesn't really happen. I guess spiders kind of stay away from humans.
I don't know about that because you see people, they have stuff in their ear, things crawl in their ear at night.
Okay, that's disgusting.
But you see it on the videos and stuff.
I know.
So it's got to happen.
I think those are one-offs.
Luckily, I don't sleep with my mouth open. I can't actually. I stay awake. So if I'm sick and I can't breathe through my nose, I do not sleep.
What do you think about that whole new thing about mouth taping?
Okay, so my son, my son tried it.
Okay.
And he did say it worked for a while, but it scared the bejeez out of me because I thought, what if you do have a stuffy nose and then you're going to suffocate yourself? So it scared me a little bit.
It doesn't scare me. I just feel like, I don't know. It's not something I've been super motivated to try.
Why would you? Are you a mouth open sleeper?
I don't actually know. I don't think so.
Oh.
Except for when I'm congested, you can tell because your mouth is super dry when you wake up.
Yeah.
But a lot of people do it for the anti-aging benefits.
Okay. How does putting tape over your mouth help anti-aging?
I don't know. I have to think it through, but I know it does. But I haven't tried
That's a myth. That's a myth.
No, I think
I'm going to have to look that one up.
It's a for real. We're going to look it up.
All right.
The other thing I remember hearing a lot when my kids were born was if you shave a baby's head, their hair will grow back thicker. You heard that?
Not about a baby's head, but I did believe that if you did cut your hair or shave it, it does grow back thicker.
So what?
But I didn't know anything about a baby's hair. Why would you do that to a baby?
Oh, I heard. I think that's kind of big in Mexican cultures.
Really?
Yes, I do remember hearing that a lot when my kids were young.
Interesting.
But the scientific evidence shows that it might feel thicker because of the blunt edge where the hair was cut, but it doesn't actually change the thickness of the hair growing in. So myth, false.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
I should have actually staggered these to the false and the true, but I'm doing all the false first. So spoiler
all
alert.
Of these are false, although I believe half of them.
Yeah, they're all
Still
false.
believe half of them. You're not convincing me, Sharon.
This one, I don't know what I thought about. Like when my daughter was pregnant, I kind of remember thinking about it, but morning sickness means girl. A faster fetal heart rate means girl, slower means boy. Those are not true, but did you believe those?
I've heard of those. And in fact, another one today was if you have a lot of heartburn, your baby's going to be born with a lot of hair.
Oh, I have heard that too.
My daughter mentioned it today because my grandson...
She has a lot of heartburn.
Well, she did with my grandson, and he has a ton of hair, came out with a ton of hair. And so we were talking about it today, and she said, you know what, I haven't had heartburn, so maybe the new granddaughter won't have very much hair. It was a whole debate. We were talking about it.
That's funny. But I will say I had one of each, and I had heartburn with both, and it's the only time in my life I've ever had heartburn. But also I remember it more towards the end of the pregnancy, so maybe she's not there.
True. Okay, so...
We'll have to see.
So, and were your babies born with lots of hair?
Yes.
Okay, we'll see.
My
You had
daughter
heartburn and they had a lot of hair, so it could be true.
My daughter more so. It's not true. Another thing that some people say is that you should put shoes on your baby when they start walking, which is true outside, but I've also read now that it's very important for the tactile feedback for them to be barefoot, like when they're walking at home.
Yes. I don't know if I ever heard that you should have shoes. I think it's just in the older days, we just liked putting shoes. We liked to have little outfits and stuff. But I do know that I've heard scientifically that you should try to keep them in bare feet or those shoes that are very, very flexible on the soles.
Right. And the other thing that I've been surprised, because I'm now just looking for walking shoes since we're at that stage with my granddaughter, there's so many more good shoes available than there used to be. For us, it was stride right or nothing.
True.
And now there's quite a few different things. I'm still probably going to get her a stride right pair to start with. But they're very flexible.
Well, because they have some, actually we got the best ones for my grandson that he actually would wear and didn't trip and stuff like that. They're on Amazon and they're just very flexible. Like you could literally bend them.
Yeah, I see all of them. I just wanted to take her to get like fitted and measured properly. So we were putting the right thing on her foot. But once you get the size.
The stride rates used to be like very hard bottom soles.
Oh yeah, that has definitely changed. Yeah. They were very hard and they were very stiff.
Right. So anyway, there's a lot of flexible ones now. And they're not too expensive.
Because I remember back in the day, which would have been 25 to 30 years ago, paying like $50 to $60 for a pair of shoes, which seems so high right now.
For that name brand.
Especially for back then.
True.
Another thing that some people believe is using a walker will make the baby walk earlier, which kind of makes sense in a little bit.
It does make sense.
But I guess it really doesn't related because they have to be able to keep their balance. I didn't look at the scientific research behind it. I just saw that it was false.
Oh, okay. I probably thought that was true as well.
All right. Now let's go into the true myths. Okay. See, I should have had you guess.
You should have.
I blew it.
You totally blew it. Okay.
Okay. Chicken soup helps cure a cold. That is true.
What? I was going to just say there's no way it cures it, but it is nice to have that warm, soup on your sore throat or something.
Right. And then some of the ingredients, I guess, help with the antioxidants and help you heal faster.
Okay.
Back to colds. Another thing that's true is honey does indeed soothe a sore throat.
I did believe that.
I don't even know if I heard that until fairly recently. I guess we weren't a honey household when I was young.
Well,
but it makes sense.
Because they would say, like, put honey in a warm tea and that for, like, your sore throats and colds and stuff. So I think I believe that.
And the whole gargling with warm salt water also is true, but I never doubted that because I could actually feel the effects of it working.
Right.
An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Indeed, it's somewhat Right, because of the high fiber content and all the antioxidants in apples, it can keep you healthier.
Okay, so I believe it, but I also believe that an orange a day can do the same thing, which I eat an orange every single day.
You do?
I do. I have to have oranges in the house.
That's weird.
It's for my vitamin C.
I don't really care for oranges. I like the orange juice, but the gushiness of it, I'm a texture person, as we know.
Yeah, so you're the apple, I'm the orange.
I definitely I prefer an apple 10 times over an orange.
And if I don't have an orange, I get all upset.
So what do you peel it and section it out and all that?
You know what? I eat it like 8-year-old soccer player. Like I slice them and then
into the little
and then I
mouth
suck
things?
on it and then I have the little mouthpiece thing.
Oh, that's funny.
Most of the time when people aren't looking, but otherwise I will peel, and if I'm in front of people, I'll peel it and eat them in sections.
Back in the day when my kids were young, the oranges at halftime were a big deal.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
No, but then there was a whole movement around that same time that was saying that oranges will make them cramp up. So then some coaches were opposed to the oranges. It was like
vitamin C makes you cramp up. Now that's a myth.
I never looked into it, but I just remember laughing because some coaches were like very opposed to it. And I thought, wow, that's a strong reaction to oranges.
That's funny. Never heard that one.
Yes. Okay. Warm milk will help you sleep.
Why is that?
Because it has tryptophan in it.
But it doesn't when it's not warm?
I'm not sure on that. I just read that it does when it's warm.
Okay, so that could be not true. It could be just milk in general.
Could be. Okay. Yes, could be. I guess warm milk is soothing. I could never, if you paid me a large amount of money, could I drink warm milk?
My milk has to be cold.
Same.
Like ice cold.
Just like coffee.
You don't drink warm
That's
coffee?
That's controversial, I guess. I don't really prefer it.
I'm not much of a coffee drinker.
I'm not much of a coffee drinker either, but if I'm drinking it, I definitely prefer it cold. But now that I'm thinking about it, I don't really care for warm drinks.
Oh, okay.
Back to sickness, ginger helps with nausea.
Yes, that is true because I get very seasick, very car sick, and I've tried it and it is true. It doesn't eliminate it, but it sure does help.
Right. And I get motion sickness and I have definitely been helped by ginger. I forgot that it can help with like pregnancy morning sickness. And then a lot of people going through chemo use ginger as well.
Oh, okay.
But it makes sense, nausea.
But I just don't like the taste of ginger though.
Really?
I guess you could probably take ginger pills.
I've only just ever had ginger candies and those were fine.
Oh, I'm thinking like when they put ginger on your sushi and
I know what you're talking about. And I don't really eat that separately.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one I have is that you can predict weather by joint pain, which I know is true because my knees will tell you that. And that's definitely a sign of getting older.
I totally agree with that too.
Do you know why that is?
Oh, okay. So actually, I'm going to take that back. I didn't think it could predict weather, but in cold weather, I ache or like your arthritis.
You feel it worse, right?
Yeah, but I didn't know it could predict it.
It's because before storms happen, the barometric pressure drops.
Oh.
And then your joints feel it that way. I did not know that.
Very interesting. Those are really cool, fun facts.
So those are our myths or our old wives' tales. Like I said, a lot of them I do attribute to my mother's generation, but interesting.
But you know what? I believed half of them. So
I guess it carries on through the generations.
I'm sure it carries on to my kids because I probably say, don't do that, this happens.
Right. Well, I was polling some friends and we're all grandparents. And we were talking about the things that was different. We've talked about this before in some subjects, but things that are different now as a grandmother than it was as a mom. And a lot of interesting feedback. What do you, and I know we talked about this a little bit before, but what is your opinion about grandparents following the parents' rules, like if they're babysitting or have them for a weekend and there's a couple pages of rules? Because there was a lot.
Well, you said on a prior episode that your daughter had like full on.
Oh, my daughter left notes.
Rules.
But also, okay, so a lot of people in the group I was with were very much against the rules being followed. They were kind of like on this camp, like we'll pretty much do things the way that are requested, but like I'm the grandparents, I'm going to do my thing. The fun grandparent role. When I talked about it before, I actually did read the pages because I would leave my mom pages and she never read them and it kind of irked me a little sometimes. So I do read them. And I do follow them just because I don't have a strong opinion about anything that's in there. But what is your opinion on that?
I listen to. I'm a rule follower. But when I was leaving my kids with my parents or my in-laws, I don't recall ever leaving like pages of notes and stuff. So I just kind of said, hey, they're at grandma and grandpa's. I know they're going to be safe. I know they're going to be loved. I wasn't as strict, or my memory just is bad about what they ate, that kind of stuff.
And I don't even think I left notes about like meals. I think, to my defense, it was more about scheduling and practices and getting them here and there and to school.
Right.
And
Those would be important things, like the
like
time of day and
logistics.
the logistics. But you got to remember, when we were raising our kids too, I mean, we weren't eating out a lot. It was kind of home cooked meals all the time. And it
True.
was fairly healthy. It wasn't terrible for you. I think I mentioned I'm a rule follower here at my house and making sure, because my husband he loves to be the favorite guy, and when kids come over and he brings treats all the time.
He comes from the fun grandpa camp.
He is the fun grandpa. Like, we'll go to watch my cousin play soccer, and like the whole family's there for a tournament or something, and he packs his backpack full of candy for all the little kids. Like, he loves to just be that guy. But with a 1-year-old or, an infant, you just can't do that. So
Right.
I'm the bad cop in the house when it comes to that. And he'll try to like, well, just one. I'm like, nope, because I don't want to get in trouble.
Right. Well, yeah, I don't break those rules for sure.
Yeah.
That was another thing that was brought up, though, is all the changes with modern food restrictions, with so many kids, no sugar, no dyes, no processed foods, which I totally understand, because I think back when we were raising kids, the research just wasn't there. We didn't realize things had dyes in them, artificial flavors, that sort of thing. And now it's just been more researched.
I have to say, my kids do want to feed the baby, who's 18 months now, whole foods, organic, stuff like that. And we tried as much as we can, but I'll be honest, I took him to the zoo for a couple hours today, and I gave him his beets, which he loves. I gave him his little mozzarella cheese balls, which he loves. But then I was eating a bag of pretzels, and he wanted pretzels, so I gave him pretzels.
Oh, that's funny.
So it has a little salt.
He's like, that tastes good.
Yeah, so I did. But he's older now. But I was really good, and they're easing up. Now that he gets a little older, they're easing up on things. Like, I'm not giving him candy or anything.
Right.
But it did have salt in it. So.
Well, it's funny, too, because with my daughter being my first, I was so careful. And with her daughter, like, she's never had sugar. Her first birthday cake, she asked me to make for her. So it was like bananas smashed up with almond flour and yogurt. And this is what I had to make the cake with.
Instead of just buying the sugar-free boxed cake that they have now from Pillsbury.
Didn't know that was a thing. I just whipped this baby up.
Yeah.
But
it was really good. The whole family ate it, by the way. So if anyone
I didn't taste it.
Well, because that doesn't sound very enticing.
She loved it. But the funny thing, and I definitely respect her wishes and go along with it, but internally I laugh because, like I said, I was very much that way with her. And then 2 years later, her brother came, and things went off the rails a little bit with two young ones.
Yeah.
And
you just learn to let go.
I feel like she'll automatically be more flexible out of necessity. But I did the same thing with my first. She's doing the same thing with her first. And I'm sure it all works out.
Yeah, my son-in-law really did not want a sugar cake. So I did find the Pillsbury sugar-free cake mix and sugar-free frosting. And it was...
our frosting was Greek yogurt.
It was very yummy. Oh, yeah, no. Because, we wanted to eat some of the cake. He had his little cake, and then we made a separate cake. But it was good.
That's funny.
Even if you're like diabetic and you need to go lower on sugar, it was pretty tasty.
The other thing a lot of grandparents with older grandkids were saying that bugs them was the overscheduling. And their opinion was kind of like, when we were growing up, we just went out to play, which I think is obviously a completely different world.
It is. And we've talked about this quite a bit in different episodes about the times are different, safety's just a bigger priority. They just let us run wild.
Well, and exactly. But I think too, I think my mom in her mind when she would come to visit, thought like my schedule was nuts and I was crazy to allow this. But both of my kids enjoyed sports. They were both athletic. And so we were doing a lot of those things. And I think just the opportunities were different. When we were young, there wasn't so many organized sports and
Yeah,
teams.
there really wasn't. And the amount of clubs now, and somebody's always into something. At least you want your kids to be into something so they're not just sitting around playing video games all day.
And yeah, hobbies are important.
My daughter, and I don't know if she says it in a good way or a bad, but she does say sometimes, yeah, I was doing everything. I was so scheduled. All my life, I was scheduled with something to do, which kept them out of trouble. I mean, that's a good thing. They had a good variety of what they were getting into, sports, activities, clubs, all of that. And they didn't seem tired. Although on our last episode, I remember you saying that kids get a lot less sleep because they have too many activities.
Well, that's not necessarily why they're getting less sleep.
Well, but that could be one reason.
Right. They're definitely getting less sleep.
But I don't recall my kids getting less sleep because of the activities.
That was my point I was going to make. I think our kids had a lot of activities and they were still able to get consistent good sleep.
Yeah. So wait a minute. What was the
So some of the complaints were the overscheduling. But I think in this...
Oh, you think
in this world...
In the past, our parents thought there was too much...
I think my mom probably thought that, but some friends with older grandkids were also saying that was something they didn't really enjoy.
Oh, okay.
Or felt like the grandkids were overscheduled. And my belief on that is a little different because I do think it's important that they have the opportunities and are doing things that they're enjoying.
And I love to stay busy, so I'm all for it.
Right, I agree.
I'm not one just to sit around and do nothing. So it would be hard if they weren't scheduled, I'd be doing stuff with them like constantly anyway. So
the other thing people talk a lot about are like all the sleep training methods out there right now. Was there like sleep training type of things when our kids were young? Because I remember...
The only one I knew was cry it out or not cry it out.
Yeah, that's all I really remember. And I do remember going through a big commotion with the sleeping regiment with my daughter. And I thought, I'm not doing this again. So with my son, it was very cut and dry. And he was always a very good night sleeper. So I don't know if I have any opinions on that. But definitely now it's a whole thing.
Yeah, there's all these different approaches to it. And I think my grandson, they did let him cry it out a little bit, but he's a really good sleeper now.
Yeah, maybe following some of these new sleep training methods and scheduling is successful. And
no, I think they went back to the old, like letting him cry it out.
Oh.
I think it was more old school.
And from what I understand, like the cry it out method, you start at a specific time. I don't know all the exact details.
Like you start giving them like a minute, then you go to 5.
Right, exactly.
And the next day you go to
there's a whole schedule.
15,
that was my point.
Then,
I don't remember ever seeing anything like that.
I do. I remember because I was dying watching my watch.
The clock. Yeah, maybe there was and I've just forgotten because that does kind of sound familiar. Like, okay, I got to wait 2 minutes and it seems like the longest 2 minutes of your life.
Yeah, when they're screaming their little heads off, it's horrible.
And I think that's an important point as grandparents, supporting our kids emotionally and mentally. It is really stressful when you're going through that because you don't have enough sleep and then you're dealing with a screaming kid trying to follow these sleep training methods. And I think that's probably an excellent time to show some empathy and just...
But I think you should also support them with that. So like when I watched my grandson...
Yeah, absolutely.
And I had to let him cry it out for a little bit. And it was hard because I just wanted to hold him the whole time. But that's something that we had to support them because that's what they were going through.
Right. That falls under the zip it category.
Yeah.
Following the rules. This is something that I hadn't thought of for a while that someone brought up. And I had strong opinions, but not necessarily for other people. I just felt like it's what worked in our family. I never believed in allowance or paying for chores. My philosophy was always you're part of this family and you have responsibilities and you have to pitch in. And that I know a lot of people did it very differently with allowances and getting paid for specific chores. And I just never subscribed to that.
I totally agree with you, Sharon. That was how I raised my kids too.
Isn't that funny? I thought we were going to disagree on that.
No, I was the same. I would say, if you want to go somewhere and I feel like you've earned it, like you've been a good citizen in the home and supported the home, then I'll give you the money. But if you really want something special, Like my son, I never bought my son video games or consoles or anything.
Right.
He had to earn it all on his own. And he would do yard work for people. He would do painting for people. He would do all this stuff to earn this money if he wanted something big. Otherwise, he had to wait for birthday or Christmas.
Yeah, a lot of their friends got like X amount of dollars per week or per month, and I just never did that. Did you ever pay for grades?
No, never.
I was also adamantly opposed for that.
Yeah.
And
because that's just, you get good grades because that's the right thing to do.
Well, and you shouldn't do it because you're getting money from it. People do you. Everyone can do their own thing. But I also agree that you should work hard and do your best.
Just because.
Right. And their friends were getting paid $20 for each A. And I'm just like, oh, man.
Yeah. I'm sure others were doing it, and I just don't remember like how I responded to it, but it doesn't matter. My kids didn't get it.
Yeah, my kids didn't either, but whatever rules people have in their family, obviously I respect. I just was curious about different ways people approach that.
I'd love to know somebody who did, though. Like, what was the justification? Was it because like, well, when you go to work and you do a good job, you get paid? I don't know.
And did they feel like it was successful? That would be interesting to find out.
Yeah.
And I guess everyone's in different positions too. Fortunately, I didn't have kids that struggled academically, and I'm imagining if you had that situation, you might get to the point that you will try anything.
That's true.
For motivation.
And in fact, my son, it's not that he struggled. He just didn't like school, but he loved sports. And so I always said, you have to have a 3.0 to play sports. And so he'd come home, here's my 3.0. Here's, can I go play now? But then when he started getting recruited for college, they're like, 3.0 is not good enough. You got to get at least a 3.5 to be recruited. All of a sudden, he's getting straight A's. So it's like, he needed that motivation. So maybe money does motivate kids who just aren't, either they're struggling or they just aren't into it.
Right. I mean, I'm sure it has its role. The other thing that was brought up was the generation of having kids always, or the parents thinking kids always need to be entertained. And I do agree, it's okay for kids to be bored.
Absolutely.
I think it's an important skill to learn how to amuse yourself, entertain yourself, because there's going to be times that there's not constant entertainment.
Or, I just always remembered in the old days, family events, we'd be up till 1 a.m, for holiday parties, Christmas parties, New Year's parties, whatever, with the family. And the kids, I'm tired, I want to go home. And I remember my parents be like, we're playing poker. You go over there and go lay on the couch and you'll get taken home when we leave, And they had to play with their cousins or, whatever. So they weren't catering to us when we were kids. And I feel like we really cater to kids now.
And I think a lot of parents do feel that obligation, like they don't want their kids to be bored or unhappy, or a whole nother issue is letting kids fail.
But how are they going to learn how to be independent people?
That's exactly my point. And even failure, like you have to let your kids fail so that they can be resilient and learn. Because, everyone's going to fail in life in different points and in different ways.
That one is hard for me. I agree. But my kids have failed in their lives.
The other one that I was thinking about was letting them take risks. That was harder for me because, when they're taking risks, they're becoming more confident, more independent. And it's
so true.
That's what's harder for me was
it your daughter or your son that took more risks?
My son. But I would say they were both pretty big risk takers. Like physically, they would do some things and I would just be like, oh, my son for sure, though, I guess. Like I'm thinking of snowboarding. My daughter perfectly followed instruction and traversed across a mountain where my son just went straight top to bottom, straight down.
Well, physical risk, I agree. Like the boys, they're the big climbers and, all of that. But just seeing my daughter and my son grow up into adults, my son's definitely more of a risk taker. He's like, oh, if I, do something, it's all right if I fail. Like he's not afraid to fail.
I would agree with that too. And my son has, just picked up and taken jobs. He's been in Chicago. He's been in New York City.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's a male thing or if it's just second child thing. I'm not sure.
I was the oldest though, and I did the same. I left Colorado without knowing a soul and moved to California.
Wow, that's so brave of you.
Well, I enjoyed our little chit chat today.
Yeah, it was fun. Mythbusters, and we get to talk about, all the stuff that we don't care what our kids think. No, that's not true.
We definitely do care. No, we are the queens of Zip It.
We are, actually. I think we're doing a pretty good job. Pat on the back, Sharon.
Yes. Yay.
Well, thanks for tonight, and we'll talk to everyone soon.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe to the podcast so we can continue to grow our community. Also follow us on Instagram at Working Grandmas Podcast, on Facebook at The Grand Balance, a Working Grandmas Podcast, and join our LinkedIn group, Working Grandmas. You can also email us at info@workinggrandmas.com or message us through any of our social media platforms.